Let's talk about the NAR settlement. This has been a hot topic for the past few weeks, and I want to touch specifically on what's happening, when we can expect changes to take place, and how it will specifically impact the Raleigh real estate market. Hi, I'm Benjamin. I'm a local real estate agent here in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. And if you're looking for your next or first home in the Raleigh area, then you probably have some questions related to the NAR settlement. The NAR is the National Association of Realtors, and they got sued big time for about $418 million, for which they will have to pay out over the course of several years. Why did they get sued? Well, there were some issues that people had about the transparency between realtors and the general public, mainly when it comes to commissions. So historically, how it's been done is on the MLS, which is where we list our properties, you will see commission to buyer's agent. I, as a seller, will pay somewhere around 5 or 6%, depending on what the agent charges, to the listing agent to sell my home. Of that 5 or 6% or whatever the number may be, the listing agent will pay, let's say 3% or 2.5% to a buyer's agent, and that gets advertised on the MLS. So the main problem that they had is that if we advertise what the agent makes, then agents will steer buyers towards the houses that pay the best commission. Makes sense, doesn't it? Now, as a buyer's agent, I know that I should be reimbursed for my time. I don't work for free. No one should have to do that. However, I do agree that if there are agents out there steering based on commission, then that is an issue that needs to be addressed. Furthermore, they found that on average, sellers didn't even know that the commission was negotiable. So as listing agents, we were failing in our jobs to communicate that option to the sellers. So what changes are they looking at making? Well, primarily, they're going to take that commission to buyer's agent off of all MLS listings. So it will be up to the listing agent and the buying agent to have a conversation from seller to buyer on what that commission will be, or if they cover it at all. So when I help a buyer look at a property, I'll have to reach out to that listing agent privately and see if we can work something out. This is to encourage the negotiation and communication of commission versus the assumption. In theory, what would happen is this would make commissions more variable. There would be less colluding, whether intentional or not. And we do expect that some sellers will take advantage of these changes and try to pay none of the buyer's agent commission. Now, the problem with that is that in a market where it's already more difficult to be a buyer versus a seller, if we make it so that buyers have to pay for their agent's commission because that agent needs to put food on their table, well then, there's going to be even less buyers in the market. Sellers will have less success selling their home and will have to sell for a lower purchase price. So here's what I think is actually going to happen. I think that we are going to adapt as realtors and just as a society to these changes, but I don't think there's going to be this major change as to where all the sellers are just paying the listing agent's fee and then buyers cover the buyer agent's fee. I think that will happen sometimes, but that will be an exclusion to the norm. I think that sellers will understand that in order to attract the most amount of buyers, they should continue to pay the buyer's agent commission. And while I do think there will be more fluctuation, at the end of the day, as a listing agent, if I'm going to work with you to sell your home, there's a certain percentage that I expect to make for my time. And of that, there's a certain percentage that I typically would pay out to a buyer's agent so that I can attract the most amount of buyers and actually perform the job that you hired me to do. So how does this actually impact you as a buyer or a seller? As a seller, you are going to have that conversation with your listing agent of what commission am I paying? What are my options? Do I want to pay for a buyer's commission at all? And what that would look like from a marketing perspective. As a buyer, you're going to have that tough conversation that you've never had before with your buyer's agent of what happens if I fall in love with a house that doesn't pay any commission to you? Am I going to have to pay for that? How much will that be? Or should we just look at homes that cover your commission because I can't afford as a buyer to do that, or I just don't want to? So those are the tough conversations that are needed that we're going to have going forward. I think in the beginning, the general response by realtors, the public was, oh no, the sky is falling, all these changes are coming. And I think a lot of agents have already left the business or are going to because of this. But I think if you look at it and you say, okay, there's a change, we need to deal with that change and adapt, you're gonna be just fine. And keep in mind that these changes do not go into effect until about July. They're subject to court approval, and there can still be plenty of changes, ratifications in the process. So I will definitely keep you updated. If you have more questions about the NAR settlement, please reach out to the number below, or you can click the consultation link in the description if you want to learn more about buying a house in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm Benjamin. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Click one of these to learn more about living in Raleigh.